Just 1 week from tonight, we'll know if Onondaga County is happy with their leader. In a sweeping profile of the incumbent by the Syracuse Post-Standard, they quote him as saying, quote, "This election is a referendum on me." So, joining me live in studio tonight is the 4th executive of Onondaga County, Mr. Ryan McMahon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lou.
So, talking about the election being a referendum on you, you've acknowledged that you should have undertaken a more deliberate process to educate lawmakers and the public on the aquarium proposal, rather than pushing hard for a vote. You've acknowledged that your communication with Sheriff-elect Shelley could have been better when you decided to close the Jamesville Correctional Facility. And last week, sitting in that chair, your opponent said that when Ryan McMahon doesn't get his way, he, quote, acts like a child. So, Mr. County Executive, have you been working and playing well with others?
I think overall, if you look at our career and you look at the last 4 years and what we've been through, we've built partnerships and bipartisan partnerships. That's leadership. And I know that's a foreign subject to my opponent at times. The same profile piece on my opponent, which you referenced, talked to some of his colleagues at the legislature over the years, and they highlighted very much so that his colleagues at the legislature know what my experience is with Bill, is that when you agree on things, he's rarely agreeable, and when you don't agree on things, he calls names. And for everybody who's there, that's what he does in his interviews, right? That's what he does in debates. He's very short on facts and plans and vision, but he's very quick to call names, and he's been very good at that.
Yeah, but I mean, as you said in your profile, this is a referendum on you, and this critique is not just coming from Democrats and folks like Bill Kinne. It's coming from members of your own party. The legislature chairman, Jim Rowley, told the Post-Standard that you have not been as communicative with the members of the legislators maybe you should be. You're here and there and all over the place. The second line on your website says that you have an unwavering commitment to collaboration, but the folks that you should be collaborating with don't seem to agree. Why is that?
Yeah, Luke, I think if you look at the reality, and I know people want to forget about it, but we managed Central New York through a global pandemic. And when you're managing that, it's very difficult to lead from behind, or it's very difficult to stick your finger in the air and figure out where the political winds are. Leadership at times is about bringing people together, but sometimes leadership is just what it is. It means you lead, and you take positions that at the moment may not be popular, but you know they're the right thing to do for your community. So the idea that we didn't get this community through the global pandemic, I get high marks from almost everybody on our leadership for that 2-year process. We get high marks from most community stakeholders on our recovery plan. Nobody is talking about the greatest site attraction team that we put together to attract a anchor tenant to White Pine Business Park, that eventually being McMahon. And my site attraction team that we put together included the Democratic governor and their senior team, the Democrat majority leader in the United States Senate, Senator Schumer. So the idea that we don't get along with others in a bipartisan way is a good political talking point. And certainly when you want a Monday morning quarterback 4 years worth of work and accomplishments, sure, there's things that you say, you know what, I could have done things a little bit different in that case or at that point.
Yeah, and you talked about communication on the aquarium and Jamesville Correctional Facility being one of those. I do want to talk about McMahon, though, and I want to show you this clip that you've probably already seen. Maybe our audience hasn't. Let's take a look at that video.
As a County Executive, Ryan McMahon is a leader who learns from the past, who prepares for the present, who is continuously planning for the future.
I'm so impressed with County Executive Ryan McMahon, and he is the can-do attitude this community needed.
This is certainly something that, for the community, we have never seen anything like this.
I've seen a lot of campaign ads. That looks and sounds a lot like one, but it's not. It was paid for by taxpayer money. Was that an inappropriate insertion of yourself into something?
Not at all. That's a marketing ad about the story of the White Pine Business Park. And unfortunately, I understand why individuals and my political critics don't like this story, because they didn't participate in it when we needed them to. And the reality is when companies are looking to move into this community, everybody in this country is asking, how did Onondaga County, how did Central New York pull off this win? The greatest investment in the history of the United States. Well, there's a White Pine story. And in that story, McMahon is the end of that story. But it's a very extensive story. And companies, businesses want to know about the community that they're investing in, and they want to know about the leaders. And that's a marketing story that's used for marketing for supply chain companies now, but it tells the story of White Pine and the community's comeback.
Yeah. There are critics, though, who say that making that project, and in that video, it was a lot about you and a lot about your accomplishments and your record. They say that that comes across as arrogant. How do you respond to those concerns and those worries that that perception of arrogance could harm the county and their proposals going forward?
Well, I don't think that perception is reality at all. I think my political critics are my political critics, and no matter what I do. Remember, my political critics voted against funding the White Pine Business Park. So they voted against the investments that were necessary to land Micron. So if they had their way, some of these same critics actually were organizing opposition to land purchases at Micron. So if they had their way, being the Democratic caucus and the county legislature, which voted against the White Pine Business Park investments, we wouldn't have Micron. Hard stop. So I understand they want to rewrite history because they were on the side of the worst vote in the history of the county legislature.
Yeah, let's talk about the land at Micron. Back in January, you told Spectrum that you put together the property that has the ability to have all the wastewater you need, all the water you need, all the gas and electric that you need. But just a few months ago, Micron doubled its estimates for the amount of water specifically that it'll need. So is that claim that you made about having everything that we need right now still true, or will this project require new infrastructure to be built? And if so, who's paying for it?
Yeah, so we always knew that it would require expansions of infrastructure. That was always part of the plan. What you're referencing is the environmental review. And under the environmental review, what you have to do is you have to study worst case scenarios at a full project build out. So the numbers you're referencing related to water are larger than what we talked about in the site selection process, without question. But that's worst case scenario. It doesn't factor in recycled water being purchased from our water environmental protection at Oak Orchard and sold back to Micron. And it doesn't talk about some of the new technologies that our teams are working on implementing. But the reality is there will be two large public infrastructure projects that will be done. One will be a second pipeline that comes down from Lake Ontario to Onondaga County, and that won't just benefit Micron, that will benefit the entire community, which is really important. And
so who's paying for that one?
I'll get to that. Yeah. And the second one being the expansion at the Oak Orchard wastewater treatment facility, which we knew would need to happen if you're going to have a 4-fab build out. We have the infrastructure today to meet that first fab, but we are simultaneously working on a concurrent path to expand that treatment facility. So the question about who pays for it, Micron is the largest user and will be the largest user of wastewater and water. So right now, today, when they start paying into the system, you'll generate revenue. That revenue will then go to pay for the debt service on the capital projects.
So I'm trying to clear that up for the audience because that was a little bit technical. Who is paying for the actual construction of the pipeline?
Like any capital project, you pay for it and then you're paid back through the users.
Taxpayers will pay for it.
Micron will pay for it. So Luke, let's go through this again. All right, because you're coming to a conclusion that maybe you want to come to, but that's just not what's happening here.
I'm just trying to understand what the facts are.
Micron is a user of water. They pay a rate for water. They're our biggest user, as you just told. So once you look at what they pay for the use of the gallons, that creates revenue. Mm-hmm. That revenue goes to pay for the bonds, which then is used for the construction of the pipeline, which not only will serve Micron, but will serve the supply chain, will serve new homes and existing homes.
The Post Standard says that the chip fab is going to use as much electricity in a year as the entire states of Vermont and New Hampshire combined. Are we prepared to handle that as a county?
Yes. Yes, National Grid has been a tremendous partner. That substation across the street from White Pine is one of the greatest assets we have in all of upstate New York for the ability to produce abundance of gas and electric and reliable power.
Yeah, there are lots of concerns about the potential impact that this Micron project could have on the environment here in Onondaga County. I want you to address those concerns and share with folks what the steps are that are being taken to ensure that it doesn't have a negative impact.
Right now there's a robust environmental review happening with the federal government, it's called the NEPA, and then the state government, what's called CICRA. So during those, you look at numerous environmental impacts, right? You're going to look at impacts on the site, wetland mitigation if you're going to disturb wetlands. You look at what the traffic impacts are going to be, right? There will be traffic impacts, so that means that there will need to be investments into the traffic infrastructure, right? Route 31, Route 11, potentially 481, Route 81. You look at other environmental impacts, open air permits, and then you certainly will look at We talked about water, wastewater. What are those impacts? What are the plans to use recycled water to discharge properly? So all of that is done through the environmental review. And then there's comment. Once that's done, public comment processes that are going on. We just extended public comment process related to some of our environmental review right now. So that document will basically be the roadmap for what you need to do to get ready for the construction project. And again, there will be a lot of traffic enhancements. There will be wetland mitigation. And certainly there will crystallize some of the wastewater partnerships, and then water partnerships are a little bit more clear.
Yeah. Let's talk about the aquarium,
Yes.
Kelly. $85 million public money being spent on the initial construction. Is it unusual for an aquarium project to be funded that way?
No. That's one of the misconceptions that my opponent is talking about. The reality is that usually these projects do have public-private partnerships, but you can't get private sector dollars incorporated until you actually have a design. And so that's where we are in the process. The money was funded, the project was funded 2 years ago. And so from that standpoint, we started construction on the site. The design is almost 100% complete. We're putting out an RFP for naming rights this week. And so that will draw private sector dollars. But when you look at, this is an entertainment infrastructure project, an educational infrastructure project, right? And so we have a zoo, right? The zoo cost a lot of money to build. The zoo has a friends group. Just like the aquarium will have a friends group. The zoo does not make money, right? Based off of some of the critics' point of view, we should probably shut down the zoo, right? Because it doesn't make money. We have parks. Every year we fund parks. Parks do not make money, but they're really important to the community. Should we shut down parks? We spent hundreds of millions of dollars over the years building and renovating a convention center, which draws in economic impact, right? The convention center each year is subsidized by county taxpayers because convention centers don't make money, but they create economic impact. We have a baseball stadium at MBT Bank where we host the Syracuse Mets. We don't make money off that lease, right? But we spend close to $100 million with renovations and building that ballpark. Same goes for the Syracuse Crunch. The reality is these are quality of life entertainment infrastructure assets that growing communities need if you want to keep people here and attract businesses. But the aquarium, they all have economic impacts, right? On their own balance sheet, they don't make money, but they have broader economic impacts. The aquarium will have a $52 million a year economic impact done by a study of professionals that know what they're doing, not part-time county legislators, and they're the same ones that did that for Boston, Baltimore, Chattanooga. And so that information is actually dated because that was before Micron.
Yeah. Back to the collaboration issue, one of the major parts of an aquarium is the research element of it.
Yes.
Will you be working with universities like ours to create research opportunities at this aquarium?
Yes, and so one of the things that, great question, that we worked is we have an advisory committee, and it's made up of community leaders, but also educational leaders. How can we incorporate research and development into the project? And so we'll be partnering with SUNY ESF. We'll be partnering with other higher education institutions, and we've even had higher education institutions on both coasts of the country reach out to us asking if they can partner because they view this as an opportunity to study various impacts of climate change. So we're going to work that in. It's an awesome opportunity for us to talk about the cleanup of Onondaga Lake, one of the most successful cleanups in the history of our country. So you're going to have research and development components, educational components. We're going to have kids in our community that have never been able to go to an aquarium, go to an aquarium. But the
will it be affordable for people in the area?
Yeah, it will be. And there's going to be memberships. There's going to be discounted rates for members. There's going to be discounted rates for seniors. We're going to work with partners to make sure that all of our young people get to go there. But it's going to draw in people from outside the community, and it's going to capture spending. And I think it's important that everyone understands in county government, we're the regional government. We run government on sales tax. It's our only growing revenue, and it's the largest revenue we have. So when we're making decisions on managing a $1.5 billion budget that has 3,000 plus employees, and we do about 30 different things, we always look at what investments can we make that captures spending in the community, but brings more spending into the community as well. And so that's why higher education is such an important component to our local economy, right? You all come in, you're from Utica, you come in, you're going to live here, you're spending your money here, right? That's a big asset to the overall economy.
A lot of it, yes. Plenty of it. So you've tackled a lot over the past 4 years, from COVID to McMahon, yes, even the aquarium, but also personally, it was a difficult 4 years, from family life to your health. What made you look at the past 4 years and say, yep, I want 4 more?
Yeah, I think overall, when you look at it, we had to go through things that no other administration had to go through. And then we were ambitious, and we put out a plan that was aspirational for our community and our region. And we believe fundamentally that our community is worthy of good things and that we can compete. And that plan was executed, and now we have the greatest opportunity with Micron's investment, becoming the semiconductor hub for memory technology in North America that any community's ever had. So now we need to execute on that vision. That's not a shared vision. That was our vision, our team's vision, right? That wasn't shared by my opponent and his team. And so we need the team that had the vision and had the aspiration to execute on the promise and to execute on building new communities, building new neighborhoods, revitalizing business districts, revitalizing old neighborhoods, building a workforce from the bottoms up in an inclusive way for the issues tomorrow. And at the same time, continuing to invest in issues that we have led on, like lead-based paint in the city of Syracuse. So these are all issues that our team is tested and proven, and our vision needs to become reality. And we're proud of what we've accomplished, but there's a lot of work that's left to be done.
Yeah, you talk a lot about leadership. We've talked before about some of your role models, folks like Colin Powell. Do you see a place for your leadership beyond county government, beyond county leadership?
Yeah, right now we're really focused in on the task at hand, right? So this is an important election for our community. You never say never when you think about things in the future. That's something I've learned. But overall, we're very pleased with the job we have. We're asking for 4 more years because we really do believe this is our Erie Canal moment, and we're just getting started.
Would you commit to serving out your full 4-year term if you're elected?
I can't imagine a situation where I'm not serving out a 4-year term.
In the last 30 seconds, what's your message to voters, particularly young people out there, about why they should get out and vote in this upcoming election?
Yeah, I think overall local elections matter. And when you look at what's going on in this community, stakes are very high because the opportunity is here. And we're the team that had the vision. We're the team that's tested through the pandemic, and we're the team that's going to execute on this opportunity. And it's really about you, right? It's really about the younger generation, my kids, existing young people, because the opportunities are going to be there for you like they never were even when I was coming out of college.
Mr. County Executive, thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome back here in studio anytime.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yep.